Today's episode is brought to you by the Vegas Beer Guys.
Everything sequel contains explicit language. And why the fudge not, you melon farmer?
Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel Podcast. This is the Harry Potter edition. Woohoo! My name is Michael Shantz. I am the happy guy from the How Dare You Awards. The sad sack who doesn't want to be here is Tom Stewart from Lonesome Whistle Productions. Say hi, Tom.
Hello, I'm going to be your defense of the dark arts teacher for this franchise. Tell you, the defense of the dark art teachers in this series are like girlfriends in Karate Kids movies. There's a different one every time.
The job's cursed, Tom. The job is cursed.
It seems like it. I love the fact that there's so many of these movies. I don't remember which ones I'm talking about. But at one point, they give the job to someone else, even though the person who did the job before was another person in disguise. Like Brendan Gleeson's character did the job for a whole movie as someone in disguise. Yeah. And then they kept him on, but not as a defensive dark arts teacher. They moved him to another job. I'm like,
no, he didn't have a job. He didn't work at the school after that.
He didn't?
He just helped Harry. No.
I'm sure he did.
Get
I'm sure
your
they gave
shit together.
Ugh, whatever.
You're wrong already. Just like you are about this entire series. If you haven't guessed yet, folks, I love Harry Potter. Tom is a self-confessed hater.
No, I'm a Harry Potter
skeptic. Do I have
skeptic.
that right?
No, I'm a okay. Okay. I'm gonna Leo gets this. Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say your Leo gets it all over the place here.
Only sequel references. The story behind us doing these movies is as long, convoluted, and ultimately as unsatisfying as the story told in these films. Okay.
How dare you?
Listen.
Not about our story, which you're probably completely right about, but you're totally wrong about Harry Potter itself.
Here we go.
I want to be a wizard, Tom. I will not be judged.
Okay. No, you'll let the audience hear the facts of how this happened, okay? This is behind the music, everything sequel, okay? So Mike and I are messaging. Mike suggests that we do more recent franchises because we were stuck in the 70s to 90s time vortex that we seemingly couldn't get out of. And I was like, that's a great idea. And you recommended the Harry Potter movies, which is a great idea. And I responded saying, I don't know if we can do that because I'm prejudiced against these movies. I tend to automatically dislike anything related to Harry Potter, which in retrospect was entirely the wrong response because it was like a red rag to a bull. And Mike said, well, now we're definitely doing it. Because now I have the added satisfaction of seeing you suffer and watching movies that I like.
Yeah.
I should have been totally nonchalant about it and you would have backed off. So,
I would not have.
I saw that at the time they were free on
what I said at the time was, well, now we absolutely have to do it.
Yeah. And I saw that they were free on HBO Max and I thought, okay, I'll bite. Let's do this. I kid you not, I sat down, opened up my notes, wrote down the title of the first movie, Chamber of Secrets, was about to start watching it on HBO Max. Turns out that even though at the time this was a brand new streaming platform, they used the Harry Potter movies as a bait and switch and showed that they were on the platform and then they immediately took them off. So they were gone by the time I sat down to watch them. So I sent Mike a message saying, this really disingenuously apologetic email, like message. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't plan this, but it's just not available. They say they won't be on Peacock for months. There's no way I can afford, doing all these 8 movies. And
I had it covered.
Mike's like, I have them on Blu-ray. I'm like, fuck. I thought I figured this out. So, and then I have to meet up with Mike to get the Blu-ray, which, I don't know when anyone's listening to this, but we're in the time of COVID. Meeting up outside your bubble is not an easy thing to do.
Heard.
At the moment. So we had to, we arranged to go to lunch, sit outdoors at a gastropub. We were nearly...
You got to worry about sauces because we're sharing appetizers and shit.
Right. And,
I'll pour some sauce on my plate. No double dipping.
We nearly get exposed to COVID by a man who takes his mask off to come over to us and ask us a question about surfing. So I'm already risking my life to get these movies. So, and this is not even where we're not even halfway through this story. I get home. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and watch these on Blu-ray now. My Blu-ray player stops working. Like literally, as soon as I put in the Blu-ray, it stops working. I'm like, okay, it's a piece of shit.
Your prejudice against these movies reaches far enough that you can break your own equipment.
It's like I'm using dark magic to prevent me from seeing these movies. So I order a new Blu-ray player. That's fine. It needed replacing. Sit down to watch it. The HDMI cable breaks in the new Blu-ray player. This all happened. This is all factual, listeners. I'm like, okay, so
I'm starting to hear some new shit. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, this is... I know, so I had to get another HDMI cable. This is why... I started watching these movies about 6 months ago. HDMI cable, sat down, finally watched it through, but those are the lengths I had to go to. And, this is the longest movie series we've done to date in terms of the number of movies.
But I'm sure after finishing watching them all, you would now like to thank me.
And let's hold that thought. And also in terms of how long the movies are individually, they're way longer than what we normally do as well. So,
true.
But when we did Tremors, we talked about how, expectation versus reality. I felt really put out by having to do Tremors before I actually saw the movies. While I'm not won over in the way that I'm sure Mike is hoping that I am. I
wasn't expecting it.
I do have good things to say about some of these movies, and I'm grateful for having seen at least a third of them.
All right. It's the most I could hope for.
I mean, and to put it
I do think it's strange that you're British and you have this aversion to Harry Potter, though.
Well,
it's like having an aversion to oppressing a people from another land.
Well,
that's who you are as a person, as a Brit.
Well, that was part of the story that I didn't mention. That while we were having lunch, you asked me, is it one of those things that British people don't like and only people outside Britain like? And I said back to Mike, I said, "What, you mean like Phil Collins?" And that was news to you. You went,
I'd never
British
heard
people
that
don't
before.
like Phil Collins. I edited that bit out of the story because I thought that's even too convoluted for this story to go down that tangent. But it's not. And my response at the time, and I'll repeat it now for the listeners' benefit, is that I think when fantasy comes preloaded with so much mythology that it's impossible to understand without it, I have I just blow a fuse, and I just can't take it. And I've talked about this before on the podcast. I talked about Rise of Skywalker and its aggressive mythologizing, and I mean, and I'm going into this. Let's not forget, we don't watch the original. I still haven't seen the original. Haven't read any of the books. I'm going into Chamber of Secrets cold.
Wow.
And it is a distressingly isolating experience to spend the first 30 minutes of that movie going, what the fuck is anyone talking about? We'll talk about it when we get to the movie, but at one point Alan Rickman says, "You were seen by 7 muggles. Do you realize how serious that is?" And out loud, I said, I don't even know what that means! How could I know how serious it is?
How could you live in our world and not even, I get that you're removed from the Potter universe, but you never even heard the word muggle?
It's so funny because there's a deleted scene from one of the later seasons of Veep where the tall guy who is, I only know is not Paul Scheer. I don't know his actual name. Because every time I see him, I'm like, how can this man not be Paul Scheer? But he's not. He's crowdsourcing a line about muggles to the crew and the writers who are seemingly there. And he's like, so wait, what kind of a wizard is a muggle? And they just launch on him. You have not seen vitriol like that from human beings before. And he's like, the muggles are not the wizards, they're the people, and the wizards don't like the muggles. And it's just like, and he goes, okay, I can ask the question. Now, look, I'm a fan of a few different franchises with some pretty, intense mythologies. But, if someone quotes me the wrong race of alien in Star Trek or Star Wars, I don't react like that. Harry Potter fans are touchy, and I don't want to incur their ire. I mean, I have a feeling that ship sailed.
You're gonna
from the first 10 minutes of this preliminary podcast. But they are touchy people. This has happened to me in real life as well, where I've asked, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And the looks I get for not knowing these things. I mean, the British part is probably, I'm a British man who wears glasses, so people assume that, like.
So they've made an assumption about you.
Well, yeah, they assume it comes to me through osmosis. But I've conspicuously avoided it throughout my life. Yeah, I'd say. I'm not really into fantasy, and the wizard part of fantasy is probably what turns me off the most. But when that comes preloaded with, a backstory that you need, 5 movies to unpack? That's what Fantastic Beasts is, right? It's telling us the things that we needed to know to understand Harry Potter in the first place. Is that correct?
No, not really.
Okay. But to spin this in a positive way, this series contains a movie that is directed by one of my favorite modern day directors, and and it's
fucking great.
So I am a better person for having seen it because it is a movie directed by that person that I hadn't seen.
All right.
And I am interested in a few of the other directors of this franchise and what they do with it. Enough that this was overall a borderline good experience.
It's the most I could have hoped for.
But we're gonna have to talk about whether we count the last 2 movies as one movie or not.
I count them as 2.
Okay.
That's what.
Good. Okay. I'm glad we're.
That was my thought process in the ranking.
I do think we need to talk about multi-part movies and why they can never work, but we
can talk about it when we get there.
Yeah, but I just wanted to make sure that we weren't ranking it as one movie.
Yeah.
Because I definitely enjoy one more than I enjoy the other.
Me too.
Good.
Let's get to it. I want to know your ranking, Tom.
Okay.
As a person who'd never seen these movies before,
yeah.
What's your top Harry Potter movie?
No surprise. It's The Prisoner of Azkaban. 3.
All right.
You want me to keep going?
Now, do you want me to tell you mine, or do you want to continue?
Let's just doing the numbers is not gonna make any sense to anyone. So let's alternate.
My top movie is The Prisoner of Azkaban as well.
I mean, you'd have to be brain damaged not to think that.
I think so too. It is by far and away the best in the series.
Alfonso Cuarón is probably the greatest director of my lifetime.
Heavy praise.
It would be strange if this weren't the best movie in the series, given that he's up against Mike Newell.
You don't have to disparage Mike Newell like that. Come on. 4 Weddings and a Funeral, right?
I mean, he did direct that. That is true.
So you have fewer good things to say about that?
I have 2 good things to say about that movie.
I mean, how about Donnie Brasco? He directed Donnie Brasco.
That's the thing everyone always says, yeah. It's the exception that proves. I don't dislike Mike Newell at all, but anyway, let's carry on.
All right, what's your second favorite movie in the series?
This was tough. I went back and forth.
The next 4 movies are really hard for me.
The next 4 movies are, the rest of it isn't as hard. These 2 spots were really hard for me. In the end,
what do you mean, the 2 spots? 2 and 3?
2 and 3 were really hard.
Okay.
2 and 3 in the ranking were really hard for me to figure out. A lot of back
3 and 4 were hard for me.
Okay, interesting. But in the end, I'm gonna revert to my love for an old everything sequel favorite and give Chris Columbus's The Chamber of Secrets number 2 spot.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And that is not the way I felt when I first saw it. Oh, no. It irritated the fuck out of me when I first saw it. And then I saw everything else, and I realized Chris Columbus was onto something.
Well, and that's the thing. So, it was... Chris Columbus is a far more cookie-cutter director.
Quite
and
literally.
I know you haven't... Huh?
Quite literally.
Yeah.
His approach to fantasy and visual effects, I'll say this now, but we'll talk about it endlessly when we talk about Chamber of Secrets. His entire approach is what I call a Russian doll approach. It's just small things coming out of bigger things. The whole movie is that. It's a little thing that comes out of a bigger thing. Even the Chamber of Secrets itself works on that principle. That is all that happens in the movie.
Right.
But despite that, I actually think he's onto something about how to do, and he's behind Gremlins, so obviously he knows how to do this. Is to take something that seems family friendly, but when you sit down and think about it, it's got as much.
Was he involved in Gremlins?
Didn't he write Gremlins?
Oh, I'm not sure I knew that.
He's definitely involved in some capacity in Gremlins.
Oh, interesting.
I think so. He's the one who's trying to reboot it now.
Okay.
But like he it's like not the perfect blend, but a very, very adept blend of family-friendly fare with an adult horror movie. And that's what I learned to like about it, but I did not like it upon initial viewing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Chris Columbus, though, for the first movie, too, those 2 movies really amp up sort of the fantasy you built in your head. If you'd read the books, which you haven't done, but
I never will.
But
and now I don't have to.
But he builds a world that kind of matches what you imagine in your head. Oh. And that's why I appreciate it. And all of this to say, by the way, is that I'm just really surprised that number 2, Chamber of Secrets, is that high on your list.
So
because
am I.
that's something I thought we'd fight about. It is not the second movie on my list. The second movie on my list is The Deathly Hallows Part 1.
What is your problem?
I love that movie.
That is my nightmare movie.
You're fucking wrong.
The only thing that kept me going through this franchise was its supporting cast. And the idea behind Deathly Hallows Part 1 is, we don't see any of them, we just see the kids who can't act.
See, I'll disagree with you there, too. I think they grow as actors. I think they get better as actors.
They have to. They have nowhere to go but up.
What I also like, so I'm attracted to that movie for the opposite reasons. I like that movie's more intimate than all the other movies because it's so focused on them.
I like the bits where other actors are playing those characters because they do a better job than the actual actors.
Fuck you.
And I like the fact that Nick Cave's Oh Children, which is from one of my favorite albums, is on the soundtrack. I probably don't like anything else about it.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
And it's part of a, it's a multi-part which fundamentally doesn't work. And this is the weakest of the two.
No.
Anyway.
It's the strongest of the two. There's actual development of character in that movie. Their relationships. I love it. But I do have Chamber of Secrets third.
Okay. Well, my next
one...
Yeah.
What, for me, one of the reasons, and part of this too is your experience upon viewing it, which yours, of course, is much different than mine. But
I'll say.
It was one of those movies I was so looking forward to. I went with Dan Aker from the Vegas Beer Guys to a midnight showing of the Chamber of Secrets, which is like a task because that movie is like 2 hours and 40 fucking minutes long.
I believe you.
But also the thing for that movie, I felt like how much I would like or dislike that movie would hinge on how well the basilisk looked at the end of the movie, and I thought it looked fucking great.
I think...
Plus, it's the last movie with Richard Harris as Dumbledore.
That is there's something, although I have nothing but good things to say about Michael Gambon.
Yeah, and it's not to say that I hate Michael Gambon, but
no, he does
but
a great
Richard
job.
Harris is just pure magic as Dumbledore, and that raises that movie for me.
Yeah, I think these movies are playing with so many of my prejudices, and one of them is about the kinds of movies that are supposed to be fun but actually aren't because they take themselves too seriously. And so retrospectively, the Chamber of Secrets goes up a couple of positions for me because I remember it being fun, and I don't remember having fun about in any of the three movies that are at the bottom of the list.
Well,
I feel like it's in a period in cinema history where franchises want to be serious and they want to be seen to being serious, and often that was to the detriment of entertainment. And I thought that there should be a minimum of entertainment that these movies provide. And this one, I was Prisoner of Azkaban has the balance just right.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, the director of Children of Men and Gravity knows what he's fucking doing. Yeah. Big surprise. But I thought this one, I was like, when I sat down and thought about it, and thought about my feelings about Chris Columbus, and I've been rewatching the Home Alone movies with my son, I'm like, it's like tonally his movies work.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy thing. God knows we've talked about that before.
Right.
But,
yeah.
This is actually a really good example of that, because if you look just at what is in the movie in terms of content, it's so much a horror movie.
All right. We got to save
okay.
it for the podcasts. You are going to tell me your third favorite.
The Order of the Phoenix.
Oh, you're a fucking idiot. Actually, you might not be as big an idiot as I think because you haven't read the books, and so. But that movie's.
Do Potterhead? What do you call yourselves? Who like Potterheads?
I'm a fucking wizard.
Wizards?
No, I'm a wizard.
Oh. What do you call yourself?
I'm a member of the House of Gryffindor. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. I
guess it's Potterheads.
I never bothered to learn those distinctions, and you know what? I didn't need to. One of them was blonde, the other weren't. Yeah, and that was actually going to be until yesterday. That was number 2 on my list. Can you believe that?
Okay, so here's the thing. Like I said that it kind of like reminds me of Die Hard. Like movies. Let's see, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, spots 2, 3, 4, and 5 for me are really razor thin. So even though I'm going to bat for Deathly Hallows Part 1 at number 2, the next 3 movies could easily be in that spot.
Okay, and is one of those Order of the Phoenix?
Yeah.
Okay, so why does that make me an idiot then? Part of the reason why I'd say here's a big thing. Part of the reason why it's so high is because in abstract I like what David Yates does.
Mm-hmm.
But it wears thin very, very quickly for me. And so this is where I see it's like fresh eyes on a very tired formula at this point. But what he does with it becomes so conventional by the end of the franchise. I like this the most because it feels fresher, because it is. Like the way that to me his big project is like, let's make this as contemporary seeming as possible. Let's have as many of these ancient magical things in the modern world as we know it.
Yeah.
In modern day London as possible. So I like the fact that he was coming in hot with that. But, every movie after that, it's like they've got to fly around a London, a London landmark, or it's just I don't need to see it again.
Okay, I'll agree with that.
So I sense that there was like someone who had a fresh new perspective on this well-worn formula in the same way that Alfonso Cuarón did, and this was where it worked best.
Well,
because
for
after
me,
this, he has no new ideas.
I have the same problem with Order of the Phoenix that I do with Goblet of Fire, which is those are the 2 biggest books that weren't separated into 2 movies. And you can feel the weight of those 2 movies, like just sort of stuffed to the gills.
I think it behooves an adaptation to turn it into one if it's one.
Wait, say it again?
One. I think it behooves an adaptation to just get it down to one film.
Oh, to one film, yeah.
I just.
All right,
I don't think
we got to move on. Where are we? Well, we both have got our first 3, right? I'm Azkaban, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Chamber of Secrets.
Okay.
And you were
Azkaban,
Chamber of Secrets, Order of the Phoenix, right?
Right.
What's your 4th?
Half-Blood Prince.
Hey, me too.
Okay.
And that was the big surprise for me. I hadn't. That's the one movie in the series I'd seen the least.
You're not gonna like the reasons why I like it, I don't think.
Well, go ahead.
Just because the first hour of it reminds me of like a Bond movie.
God damn it!
So I had something.
What doesn't?
I know. I get that. But just the way it began with, he pulls Harry aside, he puts him on a mission to spy on someone. I felt the movie was somewhat conscious of that because it definitely brought in the espionage element stronger than it had ever been there before. So I feel like that they were kind of using that Bond mission formula as a little bit of a coat hanger. But I just that whole first section of the movie with the ministry and the way that that's designed and made to look kind of 1930s, it's more in my wheelhouse than dragons and talking hats and things like that.
Okay.
So that's why I like. But by the end of the way that the movie turns out and the way it ends up, I remember not liking at all.
What do you mean, Dumbledore's death, or?
We'll get there when we get there.
Okay.
I feel like, oh yeah, this is the one where it's number 6. Yeah, this is where I felt like fatigue was setting in with the people making these movies as well. Like in the way that the script was written and the way the actors are performing, I was like, everyone feels a little bit bored of this by now. I get that, I get that sense of like, when we talked when we did A Cold Day in Hell of like shitting on people when they do exposition in the script.
Yeah.
Is a sign that everyone's bored of this by now. And I got that sense a lot here. And I just didn't like some of the choices that they made character-wise in it. But the first half of the movie, it was front-loaded so well for me.
I thought it was... I agree with that. I think it's front-load. It was just a surprise to me. Because I think a lot of people think of it as one of the lesser movies. It was just a real surprise to me when I saw it on another viewing, how much I enjoyed it, how well I thought they adapted the book.
I'll take you.
I don't know. I thought it had a lot of what you said, where it has darker shit, but is still fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just responded to it.
Fair enough.
What about your 5th?
Goblet of Fire.
All right, me too.
Okay. And you know what? This is entirely on the strength of one scene.
Oh wow!
I'll just leave that as a teaser. But
okay.
This would be right on the bottom if it wasn't for a single scene in the movie. And actually, I'm 1.5 scenes because Jarvis Cocker has an original song in there, and I'm a huge fan of Jarvis Cocker. I really wish it wasn't this movie that he was in. I really wish he was in the Alfonso Cuarón one, because that was already perfect. But and Jarvis Cocker forced me to take this more seriously than I did, but I still don't think it's very good.
God damn it! So now, with your last 2 left, you have the split movies. So do you liked the second one better than the first one? Right?
Yes. Yeah, it goes.
All right.
It goes part 2 and then part 1 for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Order of the Phoenix and then part 2.
Right on the bottom.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you're. I mean, for all your dismissal of my ultimately unsatisfactory jibe, you clearly feel a little bit that way too. Right?
Well, but for me, these were tough decisions. I think it was easier for you.
Yeah, and again, because I don't have this attachment to the series and the books and the surrounding mythology, I can just focus on moments that I like, scenes that I like that help. That's what helped me rank. So, I'm trying to choose between the movie where they don't let John Hurt speak and the movie where they do. The movie where they let Warwick Davis act and the one where they don't. It's like, it's an easy decision when looked at in those terms. Although we'll get there, but John Hurt looks like he came straight from the set of Crystal Skull.
Right. Yeah.
What am I doing today? Okay. Memorized it. Let's roll the camera.
And the funny thing for me too was I said that the 2, 3, 4, and 5 were difficult for me to decide what order.
Yeah.
But the last two were really hard as well. Because I went back and forth, like putting Deathly Hallows Part 2 at the bottom, or not Chamber of Secrets, but Order of the Phoenix at the bottom as well.
To be honest, there are some things in Deathly Hallows Part 1 that I'd speak up for, but just the fact that the main chunk of the movie is unbearable for me because it's just the central trio, which is what I kind of been dreading would happen throughout watching.
I love it.
Had nightmares about that. I have to take it down because, of course, then when you get into Part 2, it's giving you a bunch of legacy, British national treasures kind of come at you straight away. So it's almost like speaking to those people who are tired of seeing these kids try to act for an hour and a half or however long it is.
I greatly appreciate Part 1 for all the reasons you don't like it, apparently.
Yeah, that's very clear. And that's fine. And if you're into those actors and you're into what they do with the characters, then of course you're gonna think it's a better movie.
Well, because I'm thinking of Stephen King has a great quote because he loves the Harry Potter series, and he talks about Harry Potter compared to Twilight. The quote is, "Harry Potter is all about confronting fears, finding inner strength, and doing what is right in the face of adversity. Twilight is about how important it is to have a boyfriend." So
I disagree fundamentally. I would happily watch the Twilight movies over this any day of the week.
Fucking
any day of the
sake.
week. I'm not going as far as say I'd read the books, but
but all of that stuff about the confronting the fears and the inner strength and doing what's right in the face of adversity, it's about love, it's about friendship, and all of that is just so at play in the first part of that Deathly Hallows. I love it.
Yeah, structurally you're correct.
Okay. All right. Listen, we're running long, so good or bad? And I'll just put a blanket statement out.
Yeah.
Every single one of these movies are fucking great.
No.
Yes.
You have lost your critical faculties, my friend.
No. They're all good.
How are we going to do this? And for so long.
Let's go.
I'm dealing with a brainwashed cult member is what I'm dealing with. Chance as we know
where's my wand?
is dead.
I got to get my wand.
Well,
Chamber of Secrets, good
yes.
or bad?
Good.
Now we know Azkaban's good, right?
Boy, do we know.
All right. Goblet of Fire?
Bad.
Fuck you. Order of the Phoenix?
Good.
All right. Half-Blood Prince?
This was a borderline one for me, but given your previous statement, I'm going to say bad. I'm not. I can't give you more than 50% good-bad on this one after what you just said. I was willing to, if you showed any kind of restraint and the ability to critique these films in any possible way, I would have given it to you. But no, this is a bad movie.
How dare you?
Despite the fact that it starts off like a Bond movie.
The last two, bad?
Yeah. Bad and worse.
Well, we know where you stand, I guess.
Hey, look. For all I'm giving it shit, that's still 3 out of 7 good, and I nearly went 4 out of 7.
Right, that's true.
So, I'm not.
I said, it's more than I could have hoped for. You're right.
I'm not.
You're certainly not being contrarian just for the sake of it.
No, I'm trying to be as open-minded as possible.
Yeah. No matter how wrong you are.
But you can't keep saying that if I've got 3 out of the 7 movies, 2 of which should be counted as one god-awful movie. And I was nearly willing to admit one more was good. Because Dumbledore's a bit like M at the beginning. Don't you think Michael Gambon would have been an amazing... It could still happen. Would be an amazing M.
Yeah, actually.
When he was going around telling Harry to,
all right,
keep an eye on this guy. Oh, I was like, anyway.
Save it. That's it, everybody. We ran long for this.
Yeah, well, that's the series problem, not ours.
Like the movies themselves, as far as I'm concerned, they can be as long as they want. I'll watch them all day long.
And unlike this series, we're actually giving you value for money, even though I watched Mike's copy of it, so I didn't pay anything.
All right. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, I'm Mike Shantz from the How Dare You Awards. We're going to be seeing you soon, or hearing you. You'll be hearing us soon for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Say goodbye, Tom.
I'm not allowed to use magic outside school. I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe two craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They'll try new beers, they'll tell you about beer. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.